Two gentlemen join us this morning to discuss all angles likely. Of course, always when we talk about violent crimes and policing in Nigeria, we're looking at the operations and tactics deployed, the personnel and all of that. But everyone knows that as far as internal security is concerned, it is the primary function of the police. So why are we not having the kind of internal security we desire to have? Let's go dig a little bit into the background. Two gentlemen join us this morning, as I said. Austin Brimo is a member of the Police Service Commission. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Brimo, as well as Onyekachi Adekoya, who is a fellow Nigerian Institute of Industrial Security and Zonal Provost Marshal of the Association of Licensed Private Security Practitioners of Nigeria. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Let's begin with what the governor of Borno State said, what you've heard him say. What do you make of that?
I think the part I caught the most was when he was proposing that perhaps it's time for us to get machineries involved.
All the newspapers this morning reported the same thing.
To help us clear the Sambisa forest. And, just yesterday I was thinking about the same thing. Because then President Goodluck Jonathan did the same thing. And the machineries were very effective. There's a constraint as to why the Nigerian military cannot deal with the issue of Boko Haram decisively. I've said on every platform that I've been given the opportunity to speak, we know where Boko Haram is. We know where they are holed in. We know how they operate. What we don't have is what we need to deal with the issue of Boko Haram. Now, the international community can, preach human rights and show concern all they want. It is also true that the military doesn't have the equipment it requires. If you speak to battlefield commanders, battalion commanders in the field, we've said Nigeria has about 30, 40 battalions operating in the Northeast. You will hear them sing the same song, equipment, equipment, equipment.
But that's not what we heard yesterday when we spoke with the Director of Media Operations.
The height of this complaint was when you saw a major general. It is hard for you to see a major general put himself in front of his troops and then do a video recording saying to the military high command, we are here. All we need is equipment. So anybody can say what they want to say, but the narrative is being repeated. So it makes sense that if you have a fighting force that has equipment, what's the size of Sambisa Forest? What is the size of the army we're having to deal with? It's just that Nigeria as a state doesn't have the equipment. How many fighter helicopters do we have as a country? Operational. They may not be more than 15 or less. As a country, we are supposed to be the giant of Africa. So it makes sense at this time to consider every available option on the table because we need to push this insurgent force back as much as we can. So, when we say in management sciences, when you talk about ideas generation, you don't throw any idea out of the table. Let's look at all options right now.
So you are essentially talking about funding?
Well, not funding, because if you talk about funding, then you'll be looking at the issues of corruption. What has happened to the funds we have allotted?
No, I mean about everyone, depending on who you are listening to, they would allude to that. But absence or lack of equipment would probably mean that maybe we don't have enough funding deployed?
So, of course, we still don't. There's the issue of funding. But look at this analogy. We released $2 billion, sometime last year, $2 billion for purchase of equipment. If the machinery you want to hire has equipment, they have the tactics, they have the know-how, and they want to charge you, say, $200 million to get the job done, I would think that it is better to spend $200 million or $300 million, whatever the amount is, compared to purchasing equipment, at least in the near term. Let them move in, clear the place, and then you can then push in your force, because it's an issue of equipment. When you see how Boko Haram attacks, they attack in a drove. You may have like 20 mounted machine guns shooting at a military. That's why you see we took out the forward operating bases. It was no longer tenable and sustainable for the military to have those forward operating bases scattered far apart. When you have that strategy, it's a good strategy to have, but you then need the logistics and the support, close air support, to be able to prosecute that level of strategy. But so we went FOBs. We didn't have the second line of defense and forward support for the troops. And then Boko Haram was picking up the troops. What we now have is the military hold up in hope, hold up in super camps, going out on periodic fighting patrols, hoping to catch the insurgents, on occasion, but the initiative is still with the insurgents. And so the situation on ground is now that the communities that are far apart are left to themselves. Because sometimes it would take the military 6 hours to move from where they are to the nearest position of the incident that is happening. And Boko Haram has local intelligence. So how do you counter that narrative? Okay. They are in a particular area, like the Aripo area, for example, which is close to us here. I don't know if you remember when we had the issues with the guys who were doing bunkering and illegal operations. The military had to go in. It took the Air Force to soften the ground before the military could, because those guys had well-defended positions just here in Lagos. So we are looking at the same dynamics. You can't approach Sambisa Forest because the whole place is well mined up.
Okay.
Your MRAPs, which you procured, the MRAPs, they failed. They are not enough. You don't have helicopter guns. We don't have enough standoff munitions. So we can talk all day about the challenges and you know what. So if that option of equipment is not anywhere close by, I mean, the governor is making sense.
Okay. Well, that's for the big war. But then there seems to be smaller battles that we have to contend with, and that is that of the police. So let's talk to Mr. Brimo in Abuja. He is a member of the Police Service Commission. Well, so that issue is right there. Everyone is talking about why we are not having the kind of policing that we want. Now, it is part of the responsibilities of the Police Service Commission to see that the men are trained appropriately and retrained as and when due. It is also part of the functions of the Police Service Commission to ensure that their welfare packages are satisfactory. Given the, aftermath and all of the things that we've heard since the EndSARS protests, the questions are there about the welfare of the police, for which reason we are not having the kind of police service we should have. How do you react?
It is not a fact that the welfare training of the Nigerian police is in the hands of the Commission. The Commission is principally there for the purpose of overseeing. That is a civilian oversight body over the Nigerian police. The welfare issue is the Nigerian Police Council, headed by the President, 36 state governors. And we now have Ministry of Police Affairs. So those are the legal bodies that take care of training and the other welfare for the Nigerian police logistics. Ours is principally appointments, discipline, promotion of men and women of the Nigerian police force from rank and file, except to DIG, except the Inspector General of Police is directly reporting to Mr. President. So the problems we've really had really are not issues of training, as you are alluding. I'm not sure that lack of proper training has been the bane of our police force. Because if you have noted the way we have excelled in foreign support missions, you agree that Nigerian police force had done quite a lot of credit to this nation in terms of the way they discharge their duties under the United Nations and ECOWAS missions. We've always emerged one of the best police institutions in Africa. So that attests to the fact that training, it's not what we are lacking. But principally, it is clear that the Nigerian police force is underfunded and undermanned. Because if you have a police force of less than 400,000 men that are to man about 2 million people, then certainly you know that something is wrong there. We are aware that we do not have enough men to go around, to actually maintain the space for us to have peace. Policing is about prevention prevention to ensure that crime is not committed, not when crime is being committed as such to stop it. If we can prevent crime, then we will not be where we are. So certainly a lot needs to be done in terms of recruitment. And we know the president has graciously approved a minimum of 10,000 police officers to be recruited annually, which we started about 2 years ago with some challenges here and there. But I think if we maintain the momentum, if the training institutions can be brought to the standards that's required of modern policing, if we can really equip our training colleges and we keep bringing 10,000 every year, I think within the next 10 years we may be getting close to the required numbers. But certainly we do not have enough policemen, and we really need to add value to funding of this institution, because the police is underfunded. We do not have the required armory to face the internal insurrections that we are facing. Like what's happening in Borno State, you agree with me that police is the #1 institution that's supposed to be on ground to maintain peace. By the time the military liberates every territory, we are supposed to have very strong presence of police in that environment. That's like what happened, this unfortunate development of the slaughter of over 43 innocent farmers. If we had had a good presence of policemen in that place, it may have been averted. Because if you listen to the spokesman of the president yesterday while defending what happened, he was alluding to the fact that when these farmers normally go into the field, they usually enlist the services of civilian JTF. The civilian JTFs go before them, give them some level of protection from these insurgents.
You know, Mr.
And
Brimo,
then when they close from farm, they also escort them back.
Okay, Mr. Brimo, we'll get to that point.
Large...
We'll get to that point of a discussion in a moment, but just to get some clarity on some of the points you have made. I mean, I'm surprised when you say training is not an issue for the Nigerian police, but yet again you said that the training institutions need to be brought up to standard, and then you talk about underfunding. So it appears as though you say, well, training is not an issue, but then training is also an issue. But to the first question, really, because I think it's important to let Nigerians in on what exactly is happening. The act that establishes the Police Service Commission actually makes it part of your responsibility to formulate and implement policies aimed at the efficiency of the police force. Also gives you, the responsibility to perform such other functions which, in the opinion of the Commission, are required to ensure the optimal efficiency of the Nigerian police force. And efficiency is, it's a whole lot. The gamut is wide. So the question still remains that, well, you've said training is not an issue, but what are the challenges really that we don't have an efficient police? Take a look at, the police is meant to have a counter-terrorism unit, for example, but I don't think that's operational in the Northeast. So those are issues of efficiency which we would like you to speak to.
Thank you. When I said training is not an issue, I was saying, I was trying to say that the major problem of policing is not training. It's not enough to say that we do not have challenges with our training. That's why I quickly, in order to clarify that, I said our training institutions are not up to date. You have done a research in the past, particularly using the police college, Ikeja, to bring out the rot in some of our training institutions. We really need to update that. I'm not ruling out that, but I will try to let you know that in terms of performance, that we have well-trained officers that could stand their ground, that can stand their ground internationally, and they equally can do that here if they are provided the enabling environment. As regards the policy issue, yes, the Commission has put in place and will continue to put in place very viable policies that will enhance policing. The challenges have quite been numerous and are many. One, like I said, we do not have enough men. So no matter how much we try to bring in, and like we're still doing, we still have to face challenges of not having enough men. I like to also point out, for instance, that most of our, I will use the word most, when you have over 100,000 police officers out of less than 400,000 attached to the political office holders.
Mr. Brahma, just one moment. Let me ask you something. Even with the men, you said that we don't have enough men, but even with the men that we have, efficiency is an issue. And how can people be efficient if their welfare is not properly attended to? I don't know how you monitor efficiency of the men of the police force when their welfare, their satisfaction, their well-being, their psychological state doesn't put them in a space of being able to perform optimally. You speak to that, in a moment, but I think Mr. Adekoya would like to react to a number of things that you have raised. You wanted to...
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I think that there are two issues here. The issue of efficiency, yes, but I think we are alluding to effectiveness of the force we have. Efficiency has to do with costing. So if we look at efficiency, we're looking at how much we're spending on the Nigerian police, and we're looking at the returns. What's our ROI for our spend? We're spending an average of about 360-something billion every year on the police. 2021 budget is going up to 440-something billion. So in efficiency terms, are we getting value for money? The question is for every Nigerian to answer.
Then the question arises that it's the amount of money earmarked or budgeted as opposed to the amount of money released have been different over the years.
I agree. And that happens to every ministry, every parastatal. Nobody's getting full 100% release. Now, when he says that training is not a problem, then he says training is a problem. I beg to disagree. A LASMA official in Nigeria will perform wonders abroad. So it's not a function of training. It's a function first of the Nigerian spirit, of our zest to be the best of ourselves. But do we find ourselves in the right environment? The answer is no. So I don't think that training thing holds water for me personally. I continue to maintain, and even police officers will also maintain, they are poorly trained, inadequately trained. The first training they get, which is the training at the police college, is barely adequate to carry them beyond 6 months. They must come back for refresher training. And every quarter, area commanders should be having those workshops and retraining, and maybe having independent resource persons come in to, again, retool the police, because the security environment is very dynamic. You are dealing with moving targets almost all the time. So training has to be continuous. Yes, I agree there's a funding problem. In 2021 budget, we are budgeting about 186 million to upgrade the training colleges of the police. That's 186 million from the 441 billion proposed. And we say training is not a problem. Clearly, training is a problem. So training is a problem. Now, the last point I wanted to make is on of efficiency. And I think he was trying to make that point, and effectiveness. What is the cost of a police officer to a politician? It's next to nothing. That's why you find one politician has almost the size of a DPO. The size of a divisional police station, moving with him in convoy. There are some politicians who have almost 20 policemen with them at any time. So we say we don't have enough policemen, but we have enough police for the politicians. We have enough police for the VIPs, and we don't have enough police for Nigeria. I was driving to the studio, I was thinking, who really owns Nigeria? Who is Nigeria working for? Where is the interest of the common man in the general scheme of things? How many policemen do we have attached to the National Assembly? To officers in the National Assembly?
But he also spoke to the fact that we don't have enough policemen.
But we have enough for the VIPs. But we have enough for the politicians.
Okay, perhaps there is something that the Police Service Commission has been doing about that as well. Does that also include, is that part of the functions of the Police Service Commission to ensure even distribution of the men? Maybe not. But you want to speak to what the issue that we raised the other time, that even the number of policemen that we have, we need to find a way to ensure, as Mr. Adekoya has said, what your function is, the efficiency of the men that we already have now. That challenge is clearly in our faces. What can we do to ensure maximum efficiency despite the limitations that we have for now?
clearly, that is what the core areas where we have been pushing legally to see to it that every police officer in Nigeria enjoys what will motivate him and make him an effective policeman. One, for that, training and retraining, like my colleague said, is supposed to be a continuous thing. Like you said, if you recall, in those days, every police officer used to carry about what we call a pocket notebook, to the extent that if you're moving out of one duty post, you must write down the reasons why you have to move. Your superior officer must acknowledge, and wherever you are going, when you get there, your movement is equally monitored. That was in the past. We've lost it somehow. You could see a policeman who is supposed to be in Ikeja, you could meet him in Victoria Island on any other assignment without the knowledge of his supervising officer. Along the line, we lost it, but like we said, we'll be putting in place several policies in this regard to ensure that the operationalization of these men that we have today is streamlined and is better. But certainly, it is on the desk of the Inspector General of Police to deploy officers and ensure that they maintain their regular duties. But as far as the Commission is concerned, we put enough policies on ground to ensure that they discharge, that we protect Nigerians. For instance, we've said severally that political office holders should, and under those conditions, should they enjoy more than necessary police deployments at the detriment of the populace, because we want the country to be policed, not the individuals. We want institutions to be policed, not necessarily the individuals, because these are clearly the guidelines that will bring about efficiency. So we have always put in place all sorts of every policy that we could to ensure that Nigerian police force is effective and efficient in the discharge of its duties. For instance, if you look at the welfare issue, the President has already addressed that. We're sure within the next few months, the new police salary structure will emerge, and it will be unveiled. For now, we know that even the retirement benefit of an average police officer is nothing to write home about. We are equally talking to the authorities to ensure that this is enhanced. We pointed out it is not good enough for a constable to join the police and spend 35 years, probably lucky to be retiring as an ASP. And you are retiring to receive a total package of about 2 million. Can 2 million build a house for you? The answer is no. Which car will you buy with 2 million as a total retirement benefit? It's no. And these are the kind of dissonance that put these men in the kind of conditions they find themselves, and occasionally they succumb to corruption. And even the salary is increased. If we do not ensure that they are giving good retirement benefits, they should equally be allowed owner-occupier housing scheme that can enable them to contribute. All these are issues we are putting in place, and we've always been on that. We want to ensure that at the end of the day, a police officer will be proud to put on a uniform and do his job without fear, and be sure that when he's retiring, he has a place for his children, he has a place for his wife, he retire into comfort. These are things that are very important. We believe that the new reforms that have been packaged by the government is going to take note of all this, a total package for a Nigerian police force. In those days, you know that the post-independent police force was a force that Nigerians used to be very proud of. As a youth in the early 60s, when you meet a Nigerian policeman on the road with good short knickers and a baton, well-knit dresses, you feel like being a police officer. We've had very brilliant young men in those days, and we always envying them, and we wanted to be like that. But you know that we lost it during the Civil War, and after that, all the military regimes that came into this country relegated the Nigerian police to the background, and no brilliant young man wanted to join the police. Their budget plummeted, their functions were usurped, and so we lost it along the line. So subsequent civilian governments have tried to rebuild the Nigerian police. The rebuilding of Nigerian police force is going to be a gradual thing, and we need to join hands together to see how we can bring about the kind of police force that we will once again be proud of.
Okay. Well, Mr. Brimo, in building that police force, is part of the reason that we are here. And I know that there are 3 major institutions that have that responsibility. Your institution, the police force itself, and then the police trust fund. So many other issues around all of these. When we return from this break, do stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. Mr. Brimo, one of the major functions of the Police Service Commission, as you mentioned earlier, is to dismiss and exercise disciplinary control over persons other than the Inspector General of Police in the Nigeria Police Force. One of the core issues responsible for the NSAS protests was the errant behavior of certain policemen in the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Where was the Police Service Commission when people were calling for the SARS to be ended, which led to what we eventually had, and the discipline that was expected was not forthcoming?
You recall that shortly before the nationwide protests, the commission sat over several cases, disciplinary cases involving police officers. If you recall that we dismissed 9 senior police officers, reduced about 19 in rank, and over 42 others were given reprimands, other severe reprimands, and so on. So on a regular basis, the Police Service Commission has never shirked its responsibility of ensuring that any erring police officer that is documented to have erred or committed any offense that is brought to our attention, that is properly disciplined. But there will be challenges over the years concerning that issue, this issue of police discipline. Now, the reporting line when crimes are committed are issues that have been of great challenge. The commission itself has only been existing in Abuja, the federal capital. As I speak to you, the commission does not exist in any zone in the country, neither do we have office in any state in Nigeria. So it's been a big challenge. So the commission has been less visible, so that when crimes are committed, Nigerians are not even aware that there is an oversight body over this police. So what they do is to write to National Human Rights Commission or write back to Nigerian police to investigate. So when you have an institution that has a regulator, but you have to make them to regulate themselves, you have to make them to judge themselves and investigate themselves, it's a very big challenge. You find that when reports come to us, before the commission will send staff from Abuja to Maiduguri or Abuja to Sokoto, Abuja to Port Harcourt to go and investigate a reported case of human rights abuse, it takes time. And more often, the finances are not even there. So as I speak with you, the Police Service Commission is not even having a head office. The commission is scattered in about 3 wings in the Federal Secretariat with less than 400 staff to police or to monitor over 400,000 policemen. So it's been a big challenge that we have a constitutional body as ours, but not properly positioned to discharge its duties. We've made our position known to government. The response has been positive. We've been assured our head office will be completed within the next few months. We equally appeal to the National Assembly.
It's quite interesting.
Responded positively that the budget will be looked into.
Well,
and,
Mr. Brimo, it's quite ironic, really, because there's an act that establishes the commission, and I mean, those things are clearly stated there. You talked about the National Assembly. I believe that is being considered. There's a proposal for a bill, I think an amendment to the bill that establishes the Police Service Commission. But when you talk about having offices across states, don't forget there's also the complaint response unit of the Nigerian police. So people wonder, wouldn't this be a duplication? But you know what? Let me just couch this in this general question. So there's a legal tussle between the PSC and the police over recruitment of constables. And that points to a discord between the Police Service Commission and the police. So if there's a discord, how do you even work together in the first place to ensure efficiency of the police when there are issues between the Police Service Commission and the police itself?
Well, it's not a discord as such. It's a constitutional issue. The Police Act said the old Police Act gave authority to police then with an authority from the president to recruit. That was in the early 1904, 1905, early in those days, before the emergence of the Police Service Commission. So when the Police Service Commission was conceived, that mandate was transferred to the commission in the 1999 Constitution, that the Police Service Commission shall be responsible for the appointment of men and officers into the Nigerian police force, which effectively removed that responsibility from the former area commanders or the IGP. But interpretational problems have always emerged. We work together, the police and the commission always work jointly during recruitment. But there's been interpretational problem that, no, it's the police that are supposed to recruit their own men, and the commission is to appoint. And then we say, you can't sit in office and ask me to appoint somebody you recruit. I've not seen. It's a process. So once in a while, we find one or two IGPs who come up, agitate, and then we have political intervention. President Obasanjo intervened in one of these torsos, and it was resolved. And we've had 4 attorney generals that have tried to resolve this issue. 2 did in favor of the police, and 2 did in favor of the commission. And we believe that the only arbiter, the only person, the only group body that can interpret the Constitution is the courts. So we sought for permission to approach the court for proper interpretation of that role. If the recruitment bill is a function of the police, then we'll leave it. If it's a function of the commission, let the commission do it in conjunction with the police, as we've been doing. So, but that has been, been the issue. We went to court. The High Court said, okay, it's the police function, and we allowed them. We went to appeal. We appealed against it. The appeal court unanimously said no. The Constitution places recruitment.
Well, Mr. Brimo, you did. If you had allowed, you probably wouldn't have escalated it beyond that. But you know that going to court is some sort of last resort. There should have been some, deliberation saying, well, this is what the law says. You have legal departments on both sides. This is what the law says. But because of the exigencies of the security situation in the country, let's go about it this way. Because as we speak, those constables, they've still not been deployed. About 10,000 or over 9,000 of them have been trained, waiting to be deployed. And we have security challenges. So to that extent, would you say there's still no discord between the Police Service Commission and the police?
I don't want to use the word discord. You see, it's better that a problem is solved once and for all. We have not put, I think the action is continuous. The actual recruitment is continuous. All we're saying, domiciliary, let us have control over recruitment. The recruitment is always done jointly. We cannot do recruitment without the police. So it's not a discord, but we are just looking for constitutional interpretation so that the issue will be laid to rest once and for all. Like I said, for over 15 years, the issue of who is to recruit has been ongoing. It has always reared its head. And if this issue is not resolved constitutionally, it will continue to plague the system. And it's a big drawback. Like you said, we are very, very worried at this time that when we need to have recruited another set, we are still dragging. It is not a good thing for this country. It's not a good bet. We believe that in a very short time, the issue will be laid to rest. We are not happy with what has happened, and we don't want this to continue. So it's a last resort for this to happen, so that finally the issue will no longer rear its head again. Once the Supreme Court makes final pronouncement, because the appeal court has made the stand known, and we agree with the judgment, the police are not satisfied. They said they will go to Supreme Court. We believe that within the next few months, the Supreme Court will make final pronouncement on this, and it will never rear its head again.
Okay, all right, Mr. Brimo. Let's
continue to plague the system.
Yeah, let's take that further, Mr. Adekoya. He says there is no discord, but one has gotten a judgment in favor, appealed by the other, which was unsatisfied, and a discord or not? Or maybe a little tiff if it's not a discord?
Well, I think he's made his point very clear. I don't think it's a discord. It's a constitutional matter.
But the issue remains that it would seem like the police and the Police Service Commission are not particularly on the same page all of the time.
Well, if you're familiar with how we create laws in this country, and sometimes jokingly, some of the lawmakers will say that deliberately also certain clauses are inserted just for the interest and benefit of some persons. At the point where the Police Service Commission Act was created, the framers knew the provisions of the 1900 law that was pre-existing. It should
1968 Police Act.
Yeah, so it should have expressly said, this therefore annuls the powers in previous provision. Then that would have been clear. Which brings us to another issue in Nigeria. There's a Police Service Commission, there's a Police Council, there's a Minister of Police Affairs, there's a Senate Committee on Police, there's House of Reps Committee on Police, there's the IGP as an institution. Then there's the President. In fact, before you get to the President, there's the NSA. Then you have the President. We are a nation that is built and fashioned to administer. We are over-administrating. And operationally, there are challenges. I think that in this case, except where the Service Commissioner said they sought approval and got approval to seek proper interpretations of the courts. So they got that approval. So that's fine. I'm sure the presidency also wants finality to this issue, which is good. But operationally, we have a president CNC who sits in Aso Rock, who has a bird's eye view on all the agencies of state that has to do with security. You know, I think the clamor for sacking of the service chiefs is beginning to drop somehow. I don't know if we're still clamoring. But I was having an argument, I was saying, why do you sack a people who you have not resourced to do their job? Why is the president refusing to sack the service chiefs? It must be that the president knows something that we do not know. And perhaps he feels that it makes no sense to sack the service chiefs. Because clearly, you can only sack a man and say a man is incompetent, not capable, if you have provided him the wherewithal.
But let me give you this quote from the president's spokesperson, Garba Shehu, just right after that attack, before the president eventually put out a tweet. He said, President Buhari says the government had given all the needed support to the armed forces to take all necessary steps to protect the country's population and its territory. I'm sure
they would have put a caveat to the best of their ability. Because you cannot say, so if you say all is relative. All to what?
Well,
what do you measure? How do you measure all?
The necessary steps to protect the country's population and its territory. That's the caveat.
Okay, so that would be very interesting. The Nigerian military doesn't have max, more than 15 helicopters. I don't know how many is operational now. I don't know how many fighter jets we have operational now. When you say all, what is all? How do you define all? Are you saying all in the store? All what we have?
All within our means.
Yes, so all within our means. So
all that is required.
No. I mean, even America that spent over $500 billion on upgrading their military has not said they have provided all.
Let's stay with the conversation on the police.
Yes.
So talking about the funding, because it would seem like, okay, maybe I should even ask you this. How significant is funding to the challenges of policing?
My dear brother, that's about 90% of the problem. But the bigger problem is not just the funding. So say we have 330,000 policemen now, as they are. We are not even using what we have correctly. When we first, it's about the innovation. When you know there's paucity of funds, once you know your set constraints and your threat environment, you have to be innovative in application of your resources. So how are the current resources being applied before we come to the issue of funding? That's why I said, what's the return on investment? In a case where you have 50% or more protecting individuals, and then you see the 2019 National Security Strategy that says that we will now focus on human security. But then 50% of the police force is protecting private interests. And you have a current population of about almost 220 million. And then you're asking for more resources. If you increase 10,000 constables, where would they go to? Let's say another 50% will follow the trajectory. Have you been to the office of the IGP? It's like a place it's almost like a political market. It's a marketplace. You see all emirs, you see obas, first-class politicians, second-class. It's people are thronging that office, seeking for what? Protection. What are they seeking protection from? From a structure which some have deliberately put under. So you are seeking, there's no amount of security that will protect you from a system which you have caused to fail.
So essentially you're saying, while funding is an issue,
absolute issue, the structure is defective. And let me paint a picture. If we make the politicians pay for their security, I mean, I'll be very happy when politicians begin to pay for the 20, not policemen, arm the private guard companies. They are licensed companies already. Let them carry arms. Let the senator pay for 20 private armed persons. Limit them to service pistols, at least for now, and limit their weapons classification for now. Let the VIP.
That will free up more policemen for them.
If that frees up the over 50% currently locked down, what do you think will happen?
You know,
sorry, let me just make this.
This is a trend, and I see that you make this just to point to the fact that we could do this better.
Absolutely.
But you know, I'd like you to also talk to this as we wind down on this conversation, because I mean, one major thing that the military has said is intelligence, getting information from the residents, just as we wind down. And we've talked about the police. Police is meant to be primarily responsible for security. Do you see an opportunity here for the police to maybe come in, help gather intelligence? Because it might be difficult for people to approach soldiers compared to a policeman that you see on a daily basis. Do you see an opportunity here for the police?
There's always an opportunity for the police. But operationally, do you know the work schedule of a typical police officer attached to a station? Intelligence is about information, and you must be close to the theater of interest for you to gather information. You must at least be close to the people. You have an IPO who may be handling only God knows how many cases, which is the same issues we have almost everywhere. So where is the personnel? Where, by the time they are brain fagged, they are fatigued, where do they have enough presence of mind to be able to? Because intelligence analysis takes a lot of work. You need to be able to run analysis. You need to look at data. Data is indicative. You need to look at crime stats. What is trending? What direction is it trending towards? Then you then project based on your understanding of local trends. You can then say, okay, we have seen this trend based on month-on-month analysis. There seems to be an increase in this. We assess that this and this will happen. We are getting information from here, and information is pointing towards this. Okay. Where do you see the current police station close to you? Do they have that level of sophistication to be able to comprehend what is expected? Okay. Because they are just manual. They are just being put on manual labor mode.
Okay. Well, Mr. Brymo, in 30 seconds, my colleague asked you the other time about collaboration with the police so that we do not have anything that looks or could be interpreted by people as a discord. So moving forward now, what do we need to do to ensure that we have the kind of police service that we need, especially from the angle of the Police Service Commission? In 30 seconds.
Thank you. Without the police, there is no Police Service Commission. So certainly, we are bound to work together. Our job is to enhance the police force, and we are doing exactly that. And the board that we have right now is not sleeping at all. We are not looking at the challenges. Instead, we are progressively looking at how to improve. So as I speak to you, we have before us a long list of motivational concepts. We need to do some promotion, like we finished dealt with some investigations. All policemen that will be found to have infracted the law, you soon hear from us what measures we are going to take. The National Human Rights Commission has just submitted to us the investigation they carried out last year concerning the police, and we are going to implement it. So we're going to ensure that policemen are motivated. We're going to release a new promotion list for them, for those who have done very well within this period. We promote them, and we don't look at the challenges. Ours is to ensure that these policemen we have today are well motivated. There are quite a lot we have on our table. Yes. We can assure you that within the next few months, you will hear good news about
and
the
that's
Nigerian police.
And it's the kind of good news we really would love to see, because every time we hear of any form of unrest, it gives every Nigerian sleepless nights. Austin Brymo, member, Police Service Commission, and Onyekachi Adekoya, fellow, Nigerian Institute of Industrial Security and Zonal Provost Marshal, Association of Licensed Private Security Practitioners of Nigeria. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughts this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Sunrise Daily returns momentarily. Stay with us.